I used to believe family was a shield, not a weapon. But then I saw my own face in a video saying words I never spoke, crafted by someone who should have protected me. At first, I thought it was a cruel joke, but the deeper I looked, the more I realized my family wasn't just careless. They were calculating. Every holiday, every late-night call, every story spun on camera had been part of a script I never agreed to. The truth. My relatives weren't saving me, they were staging me, and I was about to change the story. The message arrived on a Sunday morning, tucked between grocery coupons and work reminders. It was from my mother, titled only with my name, Elena. I opened it expecting another request for money, maybe a guilt-soaked note about family loyalty. Instead, I found a video file. I pressed play and froze. There I was, sitting in what looked like my apartment, but my lips spoke words I had never said. My parents sacrificed everything for me, and I turned my back on them. I am ungrateful. I am ashamed. The voice sounded almost like mine, with the tiny upward inflection I used when nervous. But it wasn't me. It couldn't be me. My chest locked as if the air had been stolen. The background was perfect. My couch, my bookshelf, even the chipped mug on my coffee table. I paused the video and stared at that mug, sitting 3 feet from me. Cold coffee still inside. My mother had sent this. Did she believe it? Or worse, did she help make it? I replayed it 3 times, waiting for some glitch, a telltale flicker of forgery. Instead, I only saw myself breaking down in a reality that had never happened. My mother's text below the file was simple. Maybe now you understand how you've hurt us. Share this and let people see who you really are. For years, I had been the dutiful daughter, bank transfers at midnight, plane tickets bought on a whim when they needed me, silence whenever my brother failed, but I was blamed. I thought their manipulation was just messy love. Now it looked like design. My skin prickled. If I could no longer trust my own image, what else had been an illusion? I shut the laptop, but the words haunted me. Ungrateful, ashamed. My mother's favorite refrains, now weaponized with technology. And suddenly the question burned through me. If I still believe my eyes, then what lies have I already accepted without proof? That evening, I scrolled through YouTube. A channel I had seen before, my brother's vlog, had uploaded a new video just hours earlier. The thumbnail showed him smiling, arms spread wide in our parents' kitchen. Title: When Your Sister Forgets Family Comes First. My heart plummeted. I clicked. There he was, laughing into the camera as my mother fussed over food. The video played like comedy, him mocking my absence at Christmas, my mother sighing dramatically about how busy I always was, my father shaking his head. Comments poured sympathy for them, not me. And then came the punchline. My brother recited a childhood story about me refusing to share my birthday cake. Except it wasn't true. Worse, he included a detail that no one outside the house could know. The cracked ceramic figurine that broke that night. The one I was punished for, though I hadn't touched it. It was too specific, too intimate. My hands trembled as I realized my private life wasn't private anymore. They had mined my memories, twisted them into entertainment, and broadcasted them for clicks. For a moment, anger nearly drowned me, but beneath it was something colder, heavier grief. I remembered being 8, watching my brother unwrap a bicycle while I held a doll from the discount aisle. I remembered my mother's words, "Don't complain, Elena. You're lucky we bother at all." I remembered the hours spent studying, believing if I succeeded enough, they would finally be proud. And here I was, still the punchline. I paused the video, the comments blurring in my vision. People I had never met were laughing at my supposed selfishness, validating my family's staged narrative. For a heartbeat, I wanted to scream into that void, type the truth, expose every sacrifice I had made. But I didn't. I closed the tab. In the silence, a deeper thought surfaced. If my family could fabricate videos and rewrite childhood stories for strangers, then the foundation of my entire past was unstable. I could no longer assume memory was truth or that loyalty was love. That realization didn't set me free. It terrified me. Because if home wasn't real, then where did I belong? I walked to my window, staring at the city lights like they might answer me. Cars hummed, people laughed on the sidewalk below, and I felt both connected and erased. My chest ached with the weight of years spent proving my worth to people who saw me only as raw material for guilt, money, and spectacle. And in that hollow moment, one truth cracked through. I had never been their daughter in the way a daughter should be cherished. I had been their mirror, their scapegoat, their content. The deepfake wasn't just a trick, it was a confession. I shut the blinds, heart hammering, mind split between rage and sorrow. For the first time, I let the thought form fully. I was never really part of this family. Not the way I believed. And maybe I never had been. It started as a joke, the kind of online craze you join to kill a Sunday afternoon. Find your ancestry in 5 minutes, the ad promised. I ordered the kit because my friends were doing it. Because it seemed harmless. Because I wanted to believe there were still parts of me that belonged to something larger. I spat into the tube, sealed the envelope, and mailed it off without ceremony. 3 weeks later, the email arrived. I opened it casually, ready to scroll past pie charts of percentages and distant cousins I'd never meet. Instead, the headline punched me in the chest. Paternity mismatch detected. The words blurred. I clicked through, heart pounding, to find the conclusion spelled out. The man I had called father my entire life was not biologically connected to me. My knees buckled, and I dropped into the chair as though gravity had doubled. I refreshed the page twice, as if the truth might disappear if I demanded hard enough, but it stayed. Black letters on a white screen, not his daughter. For a flicker of time, hope rose. Maybe this meant a missing puzzle piece, a secret heritage, a chance to understand myself. But just as quickly, hope collapsed into a void. It wasn't discovery, it was erasure. The father who had belittled me, who had chosen my brother's comfort over my existence, wasn't even mine to claim. I had been disowned long before I knew I was never owned at all. My stomach twisted, memories replayed like film reels. His cold stare when I graduated, his silence when I paid the bills, his offhand remark, "You'll never measure up to your brother." Now it all burned differently. Had he known? Did my mother? If they had hidden this truth, what else had they buried beneath layers of guilt and silence? I slammed the laptop shut, but the words followed me like shadows. If they lied about my blood, then what lies had defined my bones? That night, I didn't sleep. My body shook with the betrayal, my mind spiraling into jagged questions. Who was my real father? Did he know about me? Did he choose absence? Or was he erased from my life like a bad edit? And beneath it all, a quieter terror. If my parents had concealed this, then I had never once stood on solid ground. The next day, I sat across from a therapist. The words spilled out. Messy, tangled, the deepfake, the vlogs, the DNA results. She listened without flinching, and when I finally broke into sobs, she simply handed me tissues. I cried until my chest was raw, the sound foreign to my ears. For once, no one told me I was too sensitive. No one mocked my tears. She said softly, "You can love people and still refuse to let them destroy you." That sentence pressed against me like a balm. In that quiet, I felt the first shift. Maybe I couldn't change their cruelty, but I could change my response. I could detach, not with coldness, but with clarity. I booked a consultation with a lawyer, my hands clammy as I slid documents across his desk. The email about the DNA test, screenshots of the deepfake, clips from my brother's vlog. He read silently, then tapped his pen. "Elena," he said, "this isn't just family drama. There are legal lines here. Identity misuse. Fraud." I blinked. Fraud? My pulse quickened. He explained calmly, 10 years ago, a bank account had been opened under my social security number. Transactions had flowed through it, debts accumulated, then quietly vanished into someone else's name. I had never known because the activity had been hidden under layers of manipulation. I stared at the paper he slid across to me, my name in neat print, attached to transactions I had never made. My chest constricted. This wasn't only betrayal, it was a crime. The lawyer's eyes met mine. "You have more power than you realize, but you'll need patience, documentation, strategy." His words echoed in my mind long after I left the office. For the first time, I wasn't just the daughter who had been gaslit, mocked, and erased. I was the keeper of evidence, the survivor who had been handed proof. Still, the truth cut deep. In 1 week, I had lost my father, lost the version of family I thought I knew, and gained knowledge that my very identity had been weaponized. It was too much, too fast, and yet it was undeniable. That night, sitting alone on the floor, I whispered to the empty room, "I am not just a victim of betrayal, I am the victim of a crime." And saying it out loud changed everything. The lawyer's words echoed in my mind for days. Documentation, patience, and strategy. My hands itched to act, to fight, but the therapist's voice lingered too. "Don't rush, don't burn everything down." I needed precision. I started with the bank statements. Numbers didn't lie, even if people did. I requested my credit history, cross-checked accounts, and stared at a string of transfers that led nowhere. Then I noticed something strange. Several payments routed to a crypto exchange. My pulse quickened. Cryptocurrency was supposed to be anonymous, but anonymity always leaves a shadow if you know where to look. I signed up for an account on a blockchain explorer, tracing one wallet to the next. Hours passed, each click pulling me deeper into a labyrinth of transactions. Then I froze. A wallet received funds from the account opened under my social security number. That wallet later transferred tokens to another, tagged on an open forum as belonging to my brother's company. The air left my lungs. I double-checked the numbers, praying I had made a mistake. But the pattern repeated. Funds from me to him, washed through layers of wallets. My brother wasn't just mocking me online. He was profiting off my stolen identity. I scribbled notes, piecing together a chain of transactions. Each link felt like a stitch, sewing together a story they thought would stay hidden. My hands shook, but I forced myself to keep going. Micro cliffhanger after micro cliffhanger, the evidence built itself, undeniable. And in the silence of my apartment, the truth whispered. Every transaction was a needle, sewing shut the lies they tried to bury. But evidence alone couldn't hold me up. I needed allies. The next call I made was to Aunt June. She had always been the outlier in the family, the one who slipped me extra cookies, the one who whispered, "You don't deserve their cruelty." When I told her about the DNA test, the deepfake, and now the crypto trail, she didn't gasp or deny. She sighed. "I knew something was wrong, Elena. I just didn't know how deep it went." We met in a quiet cafe. She reached across the table, holding my hands. "Do you remember when you were 12 and you got pneumonia?" I nodded. "Your parents left you in the hospital overnight. They said they couldn't miss work, but I was there. I watched you sleep, alone, hooked to machines, whispering for your mom. That's when I knew. They never protected you, they used you." Tears burned my eyes. The memory had blurred into fog, but her words sharpened it like glass. I had begged for my mother, but she never came. June's confession cracked open a wound I didn't know still bled. For a moment, I let myself cry, not with rage, but with grief. It was a pause, a breath, a rare moment of release. When I steadied, June reached into her purse and slid a folder across the table. Inside were photocopies of old bank records, statements with my name. There was a savings account your grandparents opened for you when you were a baby. I only found out because your grandfather mentioned it once before he passed. I checked. It's gone, Elena. They drained it years ago. My chest hollowed. That account should have been my start, a seed for college, for independence. Instead, it had been stolen before I could even know it existed. I sat back, heart hammering. This wasn't just betrayal. It was systematic theft, layered across years, camouflaged as family loyalty. The next days blurred into strategy. I met again with my lawyer, showing him the crypto trail and June's records. He nodded gravely. "This isn't a family matter anymore. This is financial fraud, identity theft. We'll need everything documented." I also connected with a specialist in AI forensics who analyzed the deepfake. "This was made with consumer-level software," she explained, "but someone had access to a lot of your personal footage. Photos, voice recordings." My stomach sank. My brother's vlogs. They had mined me not just for content, but for data to weaponize. The therapist became my anchor, reminding me that strategy meant balance. You're allowed to feel, Elena, but let the facts carry the fight, not the fury. I joined an online group for victims of financial and digital abuse. Strangers messaged me with stories that mirrored mine. Siblings stealing inheritances, parents forging loans, spouses weaponizing deepfakes. For the first time, I wasn't alone. My pain wasn't an anomaly. It was a pattern. At night, I reread the folder June gave me, staring at my name on those drained savings statements. I thought of the girl I had been, 8 years old, blowing out candles on a cheap cake, dreaming that one day life would reward her patience. But life had been stolen before she even had a chance to claim it. I closed my eyes, clutching the folder to my chest. The words formed silently in my mind, steady, certain. They stole my future before it even began. The wedding was held in a grand ballroom, glittering with chandeliers, and filled with the chatter of relatives who hadn't seen me in months. I walked in with a steady pace, dressed simply but sharply, carrying an envelope inside my clutch. My heart thudded like a war drum, but my face betrayed nothing. This was not the night for rage or theatrics. This was the night for precision. The plan was simple. I would not scream, not beg, not break down. I would place the truth in their hands and give them two choices: sign the agreement prepared by my lawyer or face the court. It was not revenge by spectacle. It was revenge by restraint. I waited through the vows, through the laughter, through the dancing. When the reception reached its warmest point, my mother approached me with a brittle smile. My father lingered close, my brother already pulling out his phone as if to record the reconciliation. I felt the room closing in, the stage being set. I pulled the envelope from my bag and laid it gently on the table between us. "There are two choices inside," I said evenly. "Option A, you acknowledge what you've taken, repay what you stole, and put it in writing. Option B, you ignore this and I file charges. You have 14 days. For a moment, silence wrapped around us. Then my father chuckled. My mother's lips curved into a smirk. My brother laughed outright, shaking his head. The sound cut through me, not because it hurt, but because it revealed everything. They didn't believe me. They thought this was another act, another plea they could dismiss with ridicule. They didn't sign, they laughed, and that was their mistake. The next morning, the smear campaign began. Videos on TikTok painted me as unhinged, greedy, desperate. Posts on Facebook told stories of a daughter who fabricated lies to punish her family, and my brother uploaded a vlog showing snippets of my childhood, edited with dramatic music, casting me as the villain who had abandoned the people who loved her. At first, the comments stung. Strangers called me selfish, ungrateful. Hashtags spread. Their narrative gained traction. I sat in front of my laptop, trembling, tears streaking my face. For a moment, I almost believed them again. But then I opened the folder from Aunt June, and the evidence stared back at me. The blockchain trail, the drained savings, the deepfake my mother had sent. I remembered what the lawyer had said, facts, not fury. I took a breath, wiped my eyes, and opened a new browser tab. My hands shook as I uploaded the original deepfake, accompanied by the forensic report from the AI specialist. Side by side, I showed how the video had been manufactured, how my own family had doctored reality to frame me. I included screenshots of the crypto trail, redacted names for privacy, but clear enough for any investigator to follow. And I uploaded it all in one calm, measured post, not with rage, but with evidence. Before I clicked publish, I hesitated. My finger hovered, my chest tight. What if it backfired? What if no one believed me? What if I was trading my last shred of privacy for nothing? I closed my eyes and remembered the hospital story June had told me. The girl left alone in a bed, whispering for her mother. That girl deserved to be defended. That girl deserved truth. I pressed the button. The upload went live. My pulse thundered as I watched the view count tick upward. Minutes passed like hours. Slowly, comments shifted. People asked questions. Some demanded accountability. Others admitted they had believed the lies, but the evidence was too clear to deny. For the first time, their narrative cracked. I thought they would go silent then, retreat into shame. But I underestimated them. Instead of surrendering, they escalated. My phone buzzed with threats of lawsuits, messages calling me a traitor, warnings that I would regret this. My brother posted another video, this time claiming I had doctored the forensic report. My mother called relatives, begging them to cut ties with me. I sat in the dark, phone in hand, the glow of the screen painting my face pale. My body shook, not from fear alone, but from the weight of realizing this was far from over. For every truth I exposed, they were willing to create another lie. I whispered into the silence. I thought they would stop, but instead, they've chosen war. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, stamped with the seal of the state attorney's office. I tore it open with trembling hands, scanning the first lines. They were launching a formal investigation into financial fraud tied to the crypto transactions I had documented. My brother's name was listed, my own too, but as the victim. Relief and terror tangled in my chest. This wasn't just family drama anymore. It was a matter of law. Within days, investigators contacted me. I handed over everything: bank statements, blockchain reports, copies of the deepfake, transcripts of the vlogs. My lawyer sat beside me, calm, steady, reminding me to breathe. The agents' pens scratched against paper as they listened, nodding at each new layer. When it was done, "Sewot, Himasun," one of them said quietly, "This is substantial. We'll take it from here." The news hit my family fast. My brother's business accounts were frozen, his face suddenly absent from social media. My father's colleagues whispered. My mother's reputation at her church curdled. What they had laughed off as exaggeration now sat under fluorescent lights in offices that didn't bend to guilt or loyalty. For years, I had begged them to see me. Now the world saw them instead, and it wasn't admiration, it was suspicion. Yet even as justice crept forward, I learned the cruel truth of exposure. When one secret is dragged into the sun, others follow. Reporters called, asking about inconsistencies in my father's taxes. An old neighbor reached out, remembering the day she overheard my mother pressuring me to sign documents I didn't understand. Family friends whispered about missing money from community funds. My hands shook as I realized. My family's rot went deeper than I had ever guessed. I whispered to myself, but when one secret breaks loose, it drags the rest behind it. Still, I had to protect myself. With my lawyer's help, I secured legal orders, blocking my family from contacting me directly. My finances were restructured under safeguards I should have had years ago. For the first time, my bank accounts felt like they belonged to me. And then something unexpected happened. Cousins who had once looked away sent messages. Aunts who had nodded in silence at my mother's lies now wrote apologies. "I should have defended you," one message read. Another, "We didn't know how bad it was. I'm sorry." I read them slowly, letting each word sink in. Forgiveness didn't come instantly, but acknowledgement mattered. For years I had been screaming into a void. Now, finally, echoes returned. One afternoon, I sat in a cafe by the window, coffee cooling in my hands. The city outside moved in steady rhythm. Traffic lights shifting, people laughing, a child tugging at her mother's sleeve. I let the sounds wash over me, no longer weighted by shame. I wasn't angry anymore. Not exactly. What I felt was quieter, heavier, but also lighter. Relief. I thought about the girl in the hospital bed, whispering for a mother who never came. About the young woman who signed checks to prove her worth. About the 30-something who discovered her face weaponized in a fake video. They were all me, and yet, for the first time, I felt separate from them, like I had stepped outside the cycle, breathing air that was mine alone. Justice hadn't restored what I lost. It hadn't given me back my childhood, or my father, or the years stolen by manipulation. But it had given me something else: boundaries, proof, and the power to move forward without apology. That, I realized, was enough. I leaned back, closing my eyes for a moment. The cafe hummed around me. For once, I didn't feel watched, judged, or used. I was just a woman drinking coffee, free. When I opened my eyes again, I whispered to myself, I thought justice was the ending, but now I see it's only the door. The first step in reclaiming myself was silence. I blocked my parents' numbers, deactivated the family chat threads, and closed every digital door they once used to reach me. For years, my phone had been their weapon. Midnight calls demanding money, guilt-laced messages reminding me of my duties. Now, with a few swipes and clicks, the noise stopped. The quiet felt foreign, like a room after the storm, but also necessary. I changed passwords, secured accounts, rerouted finances into new banks under stricter protections. I scrubbed my social media, deleting photos they had mined for deepfakes. It was not erasing myself, it was erasing their access. For the first time, my digital footprint belonged to me. Life without contact was not easy. There were nights I woke reaching for my phone, expecting another demand, another crisis I had to solve. Instead, there was only stillness. At first, the stillness hurt. Then, it healed. My therapist called it detox. I called it breathing. Weeks passed before the letter arrived. No return address. Just my name in handwriting I knew too well. I hesitated, the envelope heavy in my hands. Inside, one page. We are still your family. Stop this before it ruins us all. No apology, no ownership, just fear of consequences. I folded it back neatly, slid it into a drawer, and whispered, "That door is locked, but endings create space for beginnings." Slowly, I built a different kind of family, the kind chosen, not assigned. Friends who had once been background voices became anchors. Coworkers who admired my resilience became allies outside the office. Online, in support groups for survivors of financial and emotional abuse, I found strangers who understood without needing explanation. Together, we created something my blood family never gave me: safety. And then, unexpectedly, love found its way in. Someone who didn't see me as a provider or scapegoat, but as a partner. At first, I resisted, waiting for betrayal, but patience and kindness chipped away at the walls I had built. For the first time, I learned what trust felt like when it wasn't a trap. With healing came purpose. I established an anonymous scholarship for young women in technology, funded by what had once been siphoned from me. I wanted to turn theft into opportunity, poison into medicine. Applications poured in, letters full of hope, fear, and dreams that sounded achingly familiar. One night, I read an essay from a teenage girl describing her struggle to be taken seriously in a household that favored her brother. She wrote of wanting to break free, to study computer science, to prove her worth beyond the walls of her home. My chest tightened as I saw myself in her words. Then, at the bottom, I noticed her last name, my brother's. She was his daughter. The room spun. I set the paper down, heart racing. Here was the twist no strategy could have predicted. The child of the man who had mocked, stolen, and betrayed me was now asking for the chance he never gave me. I sat for a long time, the weight of it pressing against every scar. I could deny her and repeat the cycle, or I could give her what I had been denied. Slowly, I signed the approval. The funds would go to her, no conditions except one, that she never let anyone convince her she was less. When I sealed the envelope, a strange peace settled over me. The scholarship was not forgiveness for my brother, nor reconciliation with my parents. It was a declaration that I would not become them. Days later, I sat at a cafe again, the same window seat where I had once felt relief at justice. Now the feeling was different, lighter, fuller. People bustled outside. Amun, the city alive, and I smiled without forcing it. The war was behind me, but more importantly, life was ahead. I thought of the letter from my parents, demanding I stop. I thought of the girl I once was, begging for love. And I thought of the young niece who would now step into a future with doors open, not closed. I whispered, steady and certain. I did not just survive. I learned how to live, on my own terms.